I'm Amy Jo Martin. Welcome to the Why Not Now show. You know that thing you've been thinking about doing? Yeah, that one. Why not now? Have you ever actually taken the time to ask yourself, what's stopping me? Let's talk it through. This is your chance to give that idea the attention it deserves and take action. Each episode, I have a chat with a fascinating person, from entrepreneurs to athletes, celebrities, my parents, rocket scientists, and all walks of life. We talk through a critical time when they've asked themselves, why not now? We dissect that day or even that moment, step by step. Today, we have another episode that was recorded live on stage. I was recently in Las Vegas to interview Mrs. Tani Austin. She's the co-founder of the Starkey Hearing Foundation, and her husband, Bill Austin, is the founder of Starkey Hearing Technologies. Mrs. Austin travels the world and has helped more than 1 million people receive the gift of hearing thanks to her foundation. She's been named the Female Philanthropist of the Year and honored at the First Ladies Summit at the UN General Assembly. Mrs. Austin is as down-to-earth as it gets, yet rubbing elbows with former presidents and folks like the Dalai Lama are a regular occurrence in her world. I have a great deal of respect for her fierce honesty and willingness to roll up her sleeves to make an impact. Our conversation covers many areas and topics. If you're wondering how to inject a little more purpose in your life, you'll find this helpful. And if you have an event coming up and want to do a live Why Not Now interview on stage, keep me in mind. Before we get started, I want to tell you about my partners at Design Pickle. You know when you're in a pickle because you need a design, but you don't have the time or maybe even the skill to do it yourself. Many of us have been there. Design Pickle has been a lifesaver for me. Here's how they're set up. You pay a flat rate monthly fee, and you're given a dedicated designer for all of your needs. You heard that right. Unlimited graphic designs, unlimited requests, and the first 14 days are risk-free. You get a full refund if you cancel in the first 2 weeks. Why Not Now listeners like yourself get 30% off their first month. You can go to designpickle.com/why not now to redeem the offer. For me, the process has been painless and ego-free. In fact, many of the posts you're seeing on my social media channels were created by my buddies at Design Pickle, specifically Jacob at Design Pickle. That's what's cool, is that you get a dedicated designer. I'm on a first-name basis with my designer. A mentor once said to me, just because you can doesn't always mean you should. Do what you're uniquely qualified to do. Design Pickle helps me do just that. Go to designpickle.com/why not now to redeem the offer. We tackle the most taboo topics on the Why Not Now show. Oftentimes, you're hearing guests share things they've never shared before. In the spirit of things we don't typically talk about, you should know that the Why Not Now show is supported by Poo-Pourri. Yep, the original before you go toilet spray. It's magic. My friends at Poo-Pourri have literally taken the smell out of you-know-what. This pure blend of essential oils stops bathroom odor before it begins. Visit poopourri.com, and Why Not Now listeners get 20% off with code WHYNOTNOW. That's all one word. Also, you can now get Poo-Pourri at Target. So in the spirit of Why Not Now, Mrs. Austin,
yes.
Can you tell me about a time when you had to ask yourself, why not now?
Well, when I think about in the context of the foundation and the work that I do with Bill, I think that that moment happened for me in 2012, in the summer of 2012, when we had done so much work in the field in foundation work. but no documentation, nobody really understood what we were doing. And, Bill's attitude was, nobody's ever understood me. It doesn't matter, right? And it mattered to me that people should know what he's doing and why he did it and exactly what we were doing in these countries. So I think if I think about that, that was my why not now. If I don't do it now, it's not going to happen. Because there were some forces out there that were, trying to keep it from happening. And so I took to the road by myself with a small team and started making it happen.
And so that's when the story started to be shared, right?
Mm-hmm, right.
And that then enabled people to better understand. Do you remember the first thing that you did that helped you realize, I'm greenlighting this idea and it's happening? Was there a moment?
We had been on the road pretty much all year. And our team, we work so hard on the road. And, we get up early in the morning, we set up, we fit 600 people with hearing aids, we tear down, we get on the road again, we fly to the next place, we get up the next morning, we set up, we fit 600 people, and it goes on and on and on for days and weeks. And we'd been doing this for about 2.5 months. And as we were coming home for a break over Labor Day in 2012, and I asked 2 of our team members, I said, would you not take your Labor Day holiday and go back to Africa with me? I need to do this. That was the beginning of the journey to being able to create these programs around the world and really document and establish the WFA community-based model that is the Foundation's program for hearing healthcare around the world.
That's interesting that you remember asking, a team to offer up some of their own time to go and do what you thought was
after
so
being on the road
important.
for a very long time. It was a big ask.
And that was that moment. Mm-hmm. It's like, I'm going to ask.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so I told my family, and it was the first time, because I'm always the one rushing home, to be with the grandkids, to get things done for the next time we leave. And I think that was kind of the first time that I kind of left everybody at home and took off and for my own adventure.
Well, it sounds like you were making your vision a priority. And I've heard you mention at the gala this last year, a really specific story about how you would be off traveling and Mr. Austin wouldn't ask you where you're going or what you were doing. Can you share that with us? Because this was so great.
I think that was the first time I said it, was at the gala. I had been traveling for 2.5 years. I traveled 265 days in 2014, and 245 days in 2015, and 240 days in 2016. And Bill had never asked me once, when I left, where are you going? What are you doing? When will you be home? And I hadn't really thought about that, because I started thinking, I'm thinking, he really hasn't said much, And so I asked him, I'm like, why didn't you question me? And he said, I could see you had your own vision and mine would have been different. And he said, I knew I couldn't go with you. So he said, it was best just for you to do what you needed to do. I trusted you.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love that story. So not everyone can just take a vision and see it through, especially when there's so many challenges and unknowns in the work that you do and what you've implemented, even with Zambia and the Starkey Hearing Institute. So as I was learning more about that, I was thinking, where did you even know where to start. How do you go from, I have this idea and this vision, and now I'm ready to take action? What was your first move? How do you decide, okay, I'm going to start right here, because it's such a blank slate? Like, you had to buy land, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
in Zambia, yes. Yeah. Well, there's so many more players than myself. As co-founder and program advisor for the foundation, there's so many things that I understood and knew from my experience in the hearing aid business. Mm-hmm. I did, as Lisa said, I owned my own business for 12 years in Southern Illinois, ran a manpower organization with multiple offices, and in rural areas. So we had to service hearing aids and be very time conscious, money conscious, but still deliver service to the people in the outer regions of our state. And so to me, it looked so simple on how to get that outreach service and care to the people in these countries. And I'd actually hired several PhD audiologists and AUD audiologists and that had been in the field, in the hearing healthcare field in Africa, in a lot of places, and they couldn't get it done. And I kept trying to tell them, this is what you need to do. But it was my vision. That's what it turned out to be, is they couldn't see it. I could see how it worked. And then finding the people that believed in it, that lived there. Over 96% of the people healthcare workers that work for the foundation live in the communities that they work in. That's the only way it works, right? Is for the people to be taking care of each other and to grow that capacity with the cultures and the countries in country. So finding the champions, I see Professor Macharia right here in the front row, mm-hmm. from Kenya, that, such a champion on the WHO, World Health Organization level, and but had more of a vision for hearing health care in the upper echelon of the hearing, through clinics and ENT care and clinicians. And I saw it more as a service and a healthcare worker occupation. So kind of our exchange and back and forth, but truly caring about having something that works for the people. I think finding the right people in every way, whether it was in Minneapolis on the foundation, or the teams that were in the field, or actually the healthcare workers that live there.
And the sustainability that you've enabled is just incredible with that concept, and now it's in a lot of other places, right? Mm-hmm. So changing gears for just a moment, you mentioned you have average 250-ish days a year of travel. Mm-hmm. So you must have some amazing travel tips, which we'll get there in a minute with your travel hacks, because I can't even imagine, especially international travel. Just as our phones and our computers have operating systems, so do people. So what could you lend in terms of insight into your own operating system, knowing how effective you are in your days?
Wow. I am very intuitive.
Okay.
So I react as Professor Macharia and Owen, I don't know if you're out there, but Richard and a lot of the team that works with me go with my gut. Okay. It kind of to say that, because instinctually I have so many different dynamics, I think dimensions of experience. And I have to mention my mother here in the audience. She has been in the business 2 years longer than Bill, so 56 years, Mom. And I was raised with it. And she's very much like Bill, or Bill's very much like her, in the fact that it's not what they do, it's who they are. And so I was raised that way. And then following in her footsteps, went into the hearing aid business and had my own clinics. Like I said, managed multiple offices, manpower organization. So I had that type of background. And then to go into my life with Bill on a manufacturing level, understanding hearing aids, understanding the training that goes into it. I've done a lot of training, hearing aid care and impressions, and I've always enjoyed sharing that knowledge and education. So I had that aspect, and I've always been able to be very ground level and grassroots. So having all of those that information and that knowledge, I think, made it very unique that I just could know what to do in the right instances in the outer regions of Kenya. Because honestly, the world is no different anywhere. We think that we're so different and we're not. Everywhere around the world, people want safety in their homes, food on their table, education for their children, and we're all the same. Everyone wants the same. They're trying to do the same. And I have been blessed with people that have loved and cared for me. And as Bill said, I think he stays very ground level all the time. He never elevates himself. He stays production level all the time. And so, to go into someone's country, someone's region, someone's village, someone's home, and learn from them. Not think I know so much, but I know what I can do. I know what I have control over. I know what resources I have. But to also learn from them what they think they need and what they think will work. They know their country. And I think so many times people go into countries thinking that they need to be like us. And really, that's not the way it works, right? They know what they need, and they love their countries. They love their communities. They just need the resources. So it's that's where I come from, is very instinctual, and I call it my Cherokee antenna.
Cherokee antenna.
It works.
So much of what you just shared, I have a lot of follow-up questions, one of which is this Cherokee antenna, or your GPS system, right? This intuition and going on your gut feeling. That's something, do you believe that's something that we make more efficient over time? Is that something you've always had, or have you worked on it to better kind of harness and optimize your GPS?
Well, I think it's been enhanced by living with Bill that trusts it, right? You don't necessarily trust yourself, but I think that when one of the greatest gifts that you can give anybody is letting them be themselves. And I think that that's a lot of what Starkey is, we let people be themselves in their jobs. Bill has always, I've been just fine to meet kings, queens, presidents, anywhere, anytime. I've always been able to be comfortable being myself in those situations. So when you can trust that that's good enough, that's who you can be. I think that's been the biggest enhancement for me, is to say, that's okay. And then that just builds and gets stronger when you open that door and trust that voice inside and saying, oh, maybe I better not say this, or maybe, oh, that's not right, or whatever, but just curl your toes and say what needs to be said and what's within your control. As the Kelly brothers said yesterday, think about what you can do, what's within your control, not what you want someone else to do. And, that was a big turning point in my life because I was very good at saying, Bill, you need to do this, you need to do that. And he goes, why don't you do it? I'm like, well, I'm not doing it, you do it, He said, I've got enough to do, So, really starting to think, maybe it isn't just Bill. Maybe it is me. Maybe I need to be doing something, that instead of trying to pressure him, I felt like I was in the background, he was in the foreground, and I was supporting him, and I was the facilitator, trying to making these things happen. It was always okay for me to step around and go forward, but I had to decide when that was the right time and when to do it.
This is just fascinating too, because you've totally dialed in.
I don't know if this is what I'm supposed to be saying or not.
We're going to open it up to questions a bit too. So if you have other questions,
hopefully not.
It's great. I'm learning. Is everyone enjoying this? I think so, right? Yes. So when I have these renegades that I'm interviewing like yourself, and this seems to be a very common answer is that I trust my intuition. And usually I want to hear more. Like, okay, I hear that, but what does that mean? What do you do? Can you tell me more? Because I have often struggled with knowing when to let things happen versus make them happen. And sometimes when you push and force things and make them happen, it can work out great, and sometimes it doesn't work out well at all, right? Mm-hmm. Do you pay attention to like even body wisdom when it comes to trusting your gut? Do you get a certain feeling about things, or when you know this is a yes, this is a no?
Yeah, I think it's more behavior.
Okay.
I've become a good student of other people's behavior. You can tell when someone's genuine. You can tell when someone is just placating you, and not really going to do what they say you're going to do. As soon as you leave, they're going to do exactly what they want to do. And so then, you kind of make another plan going, okay, that's not going to work. Instead of, I hope, depending on someone else to do that. So I think it's the instinctual part, I think, is reading body language, reading people from what they're really saying, and understanding their situation, and really taking the time to understand their struggles and what that means and why they're saying what they're saying. So I don't think it's as mystical as that, as much as just being very aware and instinctive on the energy.
That's awesome. Mm-hmm. Thank you for sharing more and diving deeper into that. So as we look at this buzzword empathy that we hear a lot, especially in our country the last year or so, and then we look at the fact that you have a pretty global perspective given your travels. What is your thought on the state of empathy in general, given your perspective, and you have this unique lens?
Oh, that's such a big word, right? Empathy is everything, because if you can put yourself in someone else's shoes and feel what they're feeling, and I know a lot of people, I think, in here have been in some of my talks, and I have one picture of a woman in Malawi. Is Dr. Wakisa here? Yeah, in Malawi, and we were looking at possible hospital land one morning about 7:30 in the morning, and this woman walked by the car, and she's got this huge load on her head. I think it was corn, and this baby asleep on her back, and she was pregnant. She was carrying 2 water jugs, in her arms. And I wanted to take her picture so bad, and I usually ask, if take your picture, and she smiled. And so I took her picture, and she just kept on walking. And I thought, could I do that? Could I smile at 7:30 in the morning with that load, with what she was carrying? And so I think empathy is everything when you go to try to work with people, that have a different culture, that don't have what you have, or have more than you have, whatever that is. Understanding and putting yourself in their shoes and feeling what they feel is so important. I think it's I think one of the most important things in in your life, in business, in your family, in caring for another person. Agreed,
100%. And given your exposure to different cultures and different societies and ways of life, I've heard you say in different interviews there are a lot of really good people in the world doing a lot of really good things. Do you feel that we're at a little bit of a deficit here in this country, or do you feel like maybe it's situational, or what are your thoughts on that?
I think that we have to be an example that, of course we can all do more, we can all do better. I've just enjoyed the speakers so much here because we do procrastinate. They keep saying, what are you going to do at 8:01 on Monday morning, right? We hit the ground running. We know what we're going to do at 8:01 on Monday morning, and we fully expect, to do more. So accepting that challenge and being that example, I think, is the only way you can make a difference, because you don't have control over somebody else, right? Mm-hmm. So by being that example, making someone else want to do more or want to be that example. I look at Manfred right here in the front row. Manfred was in the terrorist attack in Indonesia, in Jakarta. He was in the Starbucks in what year?
Exactly 2 years ago.
2 years ago. Yeah, in 2014? Yeah, so,
16.
yeah, in 16. And Manfred, was business. He's Austrian, and very organized and spreadsheets and knows everything. And he kind of humored us through the first mission. Yeah, aren't you nice? Now get out of my way. I got to do business. And from the ICU, from his hospital bed, he texted me and he said, I understand now. I got it. He said, I got Bill's message. He said, we've got to do more. And so Bill we'd shared, our thoughts with Manfred, but I think that different things in people's lives trigger those aha moments. I've got to make the world a better place for my sons. So we need to touch as many people as possible. So, Manfred got 9,000 people ready in Indonesia. Bill's like, I don't have the heart to tell him no. He said, we've got to go do it. And, then by the time we were in 5 cities, it was 8,000, wasn't it? 8,000 people and 1,000 volunteers. And Manfred figured, by 50 family and friends for each person times 9,000, that's 450,000 people. With that mission, we touched 450,000 people with goodness, with caring, not asking anything in return, but helping them here. And so, that's our urgency to do more. And the reach is far and wide when you start helping people here, because it affects the family, it affects the community, it affects the country, it affects the world. So there's a very cascading ripple effect that's sent out. So all you can do is be that example, and the message is the message. I tell my people over and over and over again, you always tell the message, because you don't ever know, who's sitting there or what, because that's really what our job is. We are the message.
Wow, thank you for sharing that story. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. What an amazing example of how micro actions can become so macro and impactful. And my belief is that where purpose, passion, and skill collide, bliss resides. It's this kind of magical intersection where if you can find that cross-section, things will really feel good. And you seem to have found that. And we have a lot of entrepreneurial people and spirited, individuals here who have their own companies, who have their own, or they're entrepreneurs, and they have that spirit. And sometimes I think it's easy for us to compartmentalize passion and purpose from skill, and they're two different things. You've been able to blend so well and also have
your wildly successful and amazing for-profit company and your purpose impact foundation and integrate them so seamlessly. Do you have any advice on maybe some of us who are looking to add more purpose and impact to our careers or businesses rather than think of them as separate, because you've weaved them so well?
Right. And I think that's really a decision. I think it's conscious decision to not separate it. I think people work with Starkey because of who we are and what we do, because we're obnoxious. We don't.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, we're obsessive. We're obsessive, like George was talking about. We're obsessive about hearing loss. Bill's up in the room at 11 o'clock testing Sinbad, and I mean, that's normal for me, right? I don't get mad about that. I know that's what he's supposed to be doing. And, I can't even tell you, I've gone out to try to find him, and the gardener says, oh, he took the gardener out of the tree and he's gone.
Of course, and you probably say, of course.
Okay, all right, I'll catch him later. But because that's, and I guess I let Bill be who he's going to be too. And you can make that conscious decision of caring enough to do that all the time. That's a lot of work. It is a lot of work, and it's intense. It's an intensity that can be wearing, but it can also be energy giving. So it's according to how you process it and take it in, as to what happens to you. Because I'll tell you another story. In fact, it was here in Vegas, and we'd been here for like 6 weeks, because we bring customers in and then another group and then another group and then another group. And I was so tired, and we were going home after 6 weeks. And they had piled all the boxes into our suite for the truck the next morning. We had passed out, and I woke 7:30 in the morning, somebody's knocking on the door. And I opened the door to the suite, and there's a man and a woman and a young boy. And I'm like, yes? And they're like, we're here to see Bill Austin. And I'm like, it's 7:30 in the morning. He told us to come. And so I'm, okay, just wait just a minute. So I closed the door. And we didn't have a door or anything to the suite. It was just a curtain. So I throw open the curtains. I'm like, did you tell somebody to come here this morning? Maybe. I'm like, they're at the door. And I was so upset. I was so mad. I'm like, I just wanted to sleep in this morning, And so Bill, I close the curtains, and I'm just almost crying, and I'm in the bathroom. And I hear Bill talking to this family. And the mom and dad were deaf. They had no hearing whatsoever, and they were signing. And the young boy was 13. He was talking for his mom and dad. And Bill's fitting him with TSPs. And so that's very strong, 83 dB gain hearing aid. And the young boy said, he goes, when I grow up, I want to work for Starkey. And he's about 13 years old. Bill says, if you graduate high school, you call me. He said, if you graduate from high school, because they're a transient family, he said, if you graduate from high school and you get your diploma, he said, you call me. And I thought, I felt about this small, right? Because Bill would never tell someone no to sleep longer. Never in a million years. And I've learned that lesson over is that those are the moments that are the most precious, right? Mm-hmm. And I read this, and I don't know who it's from, I don't know, but it said, the only thing you take with you is what you've given away.
Wow.
And I think that's Bill.
Yeah. Wow. The only thing you take with you
is what you've given away.
Wow. And you find a way, though, to convert, you and Mr. Austin, it seems, to convert that back into more fuel.
Right.
And because you have so much
and I guess that
energy.
was my point, thank you, is that back then it was taking energy from me. Now then it gives me energy. I've gotten on the other side now.
Mm-hmm.
I got it.
Oh, and that's key. Otherwise you can't
do it. Right.
Wow.
But I'm not taking it personally. It's not about me. Mm-hmm. Back then it was about me, right? Now then I'm not looking for Bill to give me what I need. I'm getting what I need from myself. So it's a much better supply.
Self-reliant. I think that's called, yeah. Oh, wow. So what is one lesson that you've had to learn more than once?
Communicate. I think that's just so huge. You get so busy doing what you think is best, what you want, instead of drawing everybody in and communicating and getting a little more input, and anybody that works with me would raise their hand and validate that, just slow down and communicate, I think is key when things start moving so fast and happening, and keeping everybody informed on what's going on.
Mm-hmm. That's good. Basic, but so important, isn't it? And I'm looking at the clock going, wow, we are getting close to our time here. There's an anchor question usually to the Why Not Now show, and that is there something you've been thinking about doing that now you're asking yourself, why not now? And maybe we can talk it through.
Well, I just spent, like I said, I really say the last 2.5 years on this project. It was really September 2012, so you could say 5 years, but it took me a little while to get, and I'm a developer. I've been doing Bill's programs for 25 years. So I love building things and then letting them breathe and live on their own, so I'm pretty much have this global program to where, got the right people in place and running it and accountable. I think there's a lot of work to do here in the U.S. Bill and I have been working internationally for the last 10 years, and I see so much that can be done right here in the United States and domestically for hearing health care and access to hearing health care, and for people that cannot pay for it, people that can pay for it. So I think what I've learned globally and around the world will help me to make the U.S. A better place for the people that need hearing help.
Wow. This is big. It's huge and quite the reveal, too. Awesome. Yeah. What's your first step? So how do you do this? This is a vision. Mm-hmm. And what will you do? Well, you've told everyone.
I don't know if he knows it or not. I've got an appointment with Brandon because I'm going to communicate it, and I'm willing. I believe so much in Starkey. I believe in the people of Starkey. I believe that we are on a different planet than anyone else trying to help people here in the world. No one is even close to doing what we're doing for people around the world, hearing healthcare. And I think we have so much more that we can do in leadership, really bringing that caring to the fore. And I know technology is important, and I know that the science is important. Sarah Burdak touched on the art yesterday with the impressions and is so important. But, just really relaxing and enjoying this beautiful profession that we have in helping people here, because I've been able to do this around the world. mission work with no machines, no barriers, no, money, right? Which confuses and creates barriers. And so I would love to be able to bring part of that genuine brilliance back into helping people here here in the U.S., since it's gotten a lot more complicated. And I think that we forget to take the time to celebrate that moment of hearing and what we do.
Wow, that's big. Thank you for sharing that too. Switching gears for just a minute, and then we'll open it up to some Q&A for everyone. So are you up for a few rapid fire questions?
Okay.
Okay. So first thing that pops into your mind, what keeps you up at night?
I don't know. I sleep pretty good.
That's not a bad thing at all. Don't feel bad about that answer.
Yeah.
You sleep well.
I do.
Good. That's good. Okay, next question. Pirates or ninjas, who's tougher and why?
Oh boy. I think pirates. Only because I just think that to live on the sea and to have to be that contained and still be ready to fight. I think pirates are tougher.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you for your backup and your rationale there. And without your title, without the affiliation with Starkey, who are you?
I think I'm a mother to everyone.
And what advice would you give to your younger self?
I think if I had anything to say to my younger self, it would have been, relax. So it's going to be okay.
Thank you so much. And let's just give her a round of applause right there. Thank you. And we're going to open it up for questions.
Oh boy.
Anybody has some questions? Just raise your hand. There are microphones floating around.
Thank you very much. My name is Titus from Nigeria. What I want to ask is, Ma, where do you draw your inspiration from regarding humility? I can see you as an epitome of humility.
That's a great question.
I guess I would have to say my mom, because, she has always been my inspiration and my example. And she's always been a very strong woman, even when it wasn't okay and popular, and always living in the answer, not the problem. And I think that's the greatest strength that you could ever teach your child or another human being, is to go to the answer. So thank you.
Hello, Tani.
Hey.
Tani, if you had one do-over again, what would it be?
Ooh. That I can talk about? Boy, I don't know. I don't have many regrets or remorse. I have a high school diploma. I don't have a college degree. I can't say that, I would change that just with the course of my life. But I always wanted to be a teacher. Oddly enough, my brother's sitting there. He was always my student when we would play teacher. And, so I always wanted to be a teacher, but I've ended up teaching the world now. And in this hearing healthcare. So.
question. Oh, thank you so much for the Here Now Foundation, because we, in practice, just absolutely love that we have that peace of mind to help patients who need it. I have a question. When you're working through your passion and purpose, did you ever have something that happened that maybe somebody would have called a failure, but it was a learning opportunity where you had to readjust, or and how, if so, what was that, and how did you overcome that?
Right. I think a lot, failure would be depending on someone else doing something that I should have just done in the first place, right? And not following through enough. I really learned that, you can't just assume someone is going to do what they say they're going to do. I think that was my biggest failure, was not being a little too trusting, but I think you find that out as you go. So that's really, I think, the toughest thing to learn out there, is when to trust somebody and when not to.
Any other questions for Mrs. Austin? Oh, right here.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're fine. You're so inspiring, and you have so much passion. It's amazing. What fuels your passion? Where does your passion come from?
I think it's, from my relationship with Bill. He has been such an inspiration to me. I'm in awe of him still after 25 years, even though I could just kill him sometimes. But, in awe of the fact, he gets up every single day the same way, that's doing the same thing to help someone here, to make this world a better place. And so that has been my inspiration. And that he has fueled, I don't know if, I just feel like we've been so destined to be together because of where I came from and who I am and my background. And then, when we met, and his vision became, I guess, started my vision, not became my vision, his vision that there would never be children in deaf schools that didn't have hearing aids, that needed them. And I really wanted to make that possible. I don't think Bill really thought it would be possible, as big as the world is, and as with as many different barriers and culture and everything. And, we've really connected the dots in the cultures. One of the things that I'm proudest of in this program that we've built is that, we can bring our hearing healthcare workers from Africa to India, India to Asia, Asia, to Africa. It's all interchangeable. All the best practices are the same way, plug and play. Everyone's doing the same thing. We were just in India. We had our country coordinators from Tanzania and Kenya come to India to help the India team, and they plugged in immediately.
Amazing.
Right, and we're able to do with the team. And so we've made a global team doing the same thing the same way, and that's very powerful when people start working together like that, no matter where you come from, what language, those kind of barriers. And so I've been able to see the power in that, and that's grown my own power, my own passion for what I'm doing. So I think it's kind of simultaneously happened, as far as you grow something, and it's almost like a child, and now that I'm letting it go, right, because it's become a separate entity from what I started it, but it still is part of you.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
I don't know if that, I lost you there for a minute, but that's what.
I see a few questions down here and back there, yes.
So this is a little more small world question than a lot of the other questions, but my partner is an audiologist as well. Do you have any advice for couples who are in the same profession?
Yeah, honestly, I do.
How to support each other.
Yeah, honestly, I do. It's respect, right? I think that respecting each other, Bill and I have a great respect for each other, even when we get mad at each other. We don't go there. And I say, don't go there. No.
I believe
Just
you.
in case he forgets. No. But I seriously, I think that's almost as important as love, is that respect for one another. When you have that respect, and especially if you're working with each other.
Hola, Tani.
Hola.
For the lady in the back, we're also a couple and we work together.
And he listens to her, I can tell you.
Tani, can you tell us something funny about Bill? And if it's not appropriate, maybe something funny about some of the naysayers, somebody who was not happy that you went into the country, maybe a government official or something?
Oh, there's so many funny things that are coincidental things that happen along the way. I can't think of anything right off the bat, but I know that, I can't think of anything funny. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'm sorry about that. Oh, okay, you probably plenty of people in here could.
I think it's a good story to tell because now we are at a good point there. I remember 2013, the whole bus filled with students came back for new hearing aids, and you said, they're gonna go again get in line for new hearing aids. I have to talk to the teachers. So you talk to the teachers and say, how come I gave you hearing aids last year and now you're here again with the same thing? So I'm very happy to know that you got very mad at them. I have that image in my brain. And you planted a seed. Right now, I'm very happy to say that. They are wearing hearing aids for many months now, and they know how to work them and know they can keep them and have them repaired later.
Yeah.
And the teachers are working there.
Good.
So that was
I
a
remember
nice
that. I did. I kind of got after the teachers. I'm glad they listened.
Maybe just one last question. I see the clock has turned and now it's going up. So.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Rauf Kader. I'm from the United Nations in New York. Tani, I want to thank you for all the information you share with us. And I know you are a very good lady and you work a lot. But my question is, how do you start a mission, like when you go to a region or to an area? I'm not very familiar. How did you start it? How do you pick up the areas when you go take your missions? And thanks for the
Okay, thank
sharing.
you, Ralph. That's a good question, because the foundation is, for so many years, have been very reactive. If someone asks for help, then we'll go there and try to figure out how to do it. Now then, we have a team, and we'll start at the Ministry of Health, Ministry of Education, start at the government level and make sure that we've got all of those channels informed and that we're gonna enter the country the right way. So that's the most important thing. Now that we have the documentation, we have the data, we have the program, we can give them the model, then we enter MOU, where they've got to understand what they need to bring to the table, as far as customs and getting everything into the country and things like that. So I think we've got a very, very good model now. And, when someone like us comes to a country and says, we want to help your country here, most people are very, very excited and gracious and try to help us figure out a way to do it.
Rightfully so. That's awesome. Well, thank you everyone for questions, amazing questions. And Mrs. Austin,
Thank you.
This was amazing and so
Hey everyone, thanks for listening to the show. Hit me up on social media to let me know what you think. I'm at Amy Jo Martin on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And I want to hear your Why Not Now moments so I can share them on the show. Just send me a note to whynotnow@amyjomartin.com. For show notes and other offers, you can visit amyjomartin.com/whynotnow. And while you're there, don't forget to sign up for my email newsletter for exclusive content and announcements. A big thanks to Rock Salt Music for all of the tunes by the talented John Coggins. And of course, a hat tip to Richard Brewer for editing and producing the show. I'll see you next time. And until then, why not now?